So these are some of just a sample ransomware and exploitable vulnerabilities. Obviously, this is a non-exhaustive list, but then you see like Conti, Lockbit, Revel, Maze, all of them, they use a different form of vulnerabilities, which is actually from here, right? They use different vulnerabilities. Obviously, these ransomware, they take and make use of default and malicious credentials as well. So what can I do? After we spoke about the ransomware impact, how they spread, some of the statistics, we look at what are the possible control measures, mitigation measures to address or mitigate the risk of ransomware. So all of you, I hope all of you have come across the NIST cybersecurity framework. The NIST cybersecurity framework talk about a few different functions, right? Identify, protect, detect, respond, recover. Identify, protect, detect, respond, recover. So if we think about this framework holistically, identify includes looking at your key assets, right? Which are the most critical assets where data needs to be protected. So you have your backup and recovery capabilities, meeting the RTO, RPO requirement. The machine, the application is secure by having the latest form of EPP, EDR. You have security monitoring in place for detection in case of ransomware. All the key crown jewels are identified and then protected, right? So under the protect stage, you have a few different technologies as well. So EPP capabilities are there to detect. Also EDR, you have capabilities in the detection capability. Under detection, we have anomalies and event continuous monitoring. So what you need to do to address and be able to detect a ransomware is already present in your environment. And then after detection, immediately respond to it. Because now we say that cybersecurity is not a question of if you will be hit, it is a question of when. So when the organization is hit by ransomware, there needs to be capability to detect and respond to ransomware. Besides that, we have also capabilities to do proactive detection on vulnerabilities or attack vectors used by ransomware to propagate, right? So these are also continuous compliance and continuous assurance processes that you need to test your infrastructure. And last but not least, after the identify, protect, detect, respond, you have your recovery capability, right? Recovery to resume services back to normalcy. So under vulnerability management, we talk about the cyclical process of identifying, classifying, and mitigating vulnerabilities, particularly in the form of software. We have the NIST CST framework reference mentioned over here. What I want to touch upon is more of the these two capabilities of protect, information protection, and detect for vulnerability management, right? So let me introduce you our solution. Like what Yosta has mentioned earlier, our solution is in a space of, within the NIST is in a phase of vulnerability management where we automatically are able to do vulnerability assessment and reduce false positive by launching exploits to reduce false positives so that your team will know where are the critical machines, devices, patches required to prioritize and follow. So we are here in the automated VAPT tool and also red teaming capability. So we say that we assist red teams to identify your attack vector. Then after that, the red teams can continue to go in and do the required step. So our organization is called out here, Rich Security, as one of the key players in the automated penetration testing space. what we are able to say, or our motto is, the attackers, the adversaries are getting much smarter and well-funded because they are advanced, persistent, right? We call them APT. The attackers, adversary are very advanced and persistent. So we need to be equip ourselves to leverage on AI and security automation so that pen test is no longer done only once a year or twice a year based on compliance, but pen tests can now be done on demand as and when you need it. So RichBot is powered by an AI engine. So we say that the security automation capability to deliver and automate a lot of jobs, scanning jobs, discovery jobs, and exploit jobs. We test real world scenarios with ransomware attacks. So Pak Yosta earlier have demonstrated the number of plugins we have, all the plugins related to the ransomware attack situation. We present also the attack path, or what we call the cyber kill chain, for you to identify how have we successfully gone in and attacked the system. So there's a historical posture with trending report. And last but not least, we provide suggestions to meet the remediation, the vulnerability management time cycle, because time is of essence. You cannot no longer be able to patch so many vulnerabilities which has not been eliminated the false positive possibility. Right? So over here, we have close to 270 and more plugins to identify for default weak credentials across multiple protocols and applications, and more than 215 exploits, which is mapped to the ransomware use case attack vector, where the ransomware make use of these different vulnerabilities to break into the organization. This is our built-in scenario for ransomware attack. So these two scenarios are used by various APT groups. So we will use the same attack vector by the same APT group, either default threats or weak credentials, certain vulnerabilities, to identify whether your organization is exposed to these vulnerabilities, and then allow you to quickly identify and remediate these vulnerabilities before the organization is hit, right? So RichBot is an automated pen test robot. We have a capability to do scheduling and automation, meaning once the VA is conducted, automatically the exploit will be launched, and then you have capability to review report. So these are the core technologies. Like how we do a manual pen test here, we always do a ping sweep, a port scan, nmap scan. After that, we'll do a vulnerability scanning using Nessus, Qualys, Nexpose. Then after that, we have our exploit toolkit. Either we write code, we use Metasploit, we use Core Impact, and then we'll launch the exploit. So now, using an AI-powered engine, your whole pen test cycle is automated using one tool, one solution. It will do everything from discovery, scanning, exploit, and even post-exploitation. So this is our some of samples. We have an SQL injection exploit. So you'll see the SQL injection exploit. We need to show proof what database is it running on and what version. This is my SQL version 5.5.64. The database schema is also dumped on our tool. Over here on the right-hand side, you will see the cyber kill chain. So you have here, you have your ping sweep, you have your port scan, the port is open, you found the vulnerability, and then you launch the exploit, and then you see the proof, right? So all of the work is being done, scheduled, and automatically prioritized by the bot. So what we call this as the security automation. The graphical user interface is very intuitive as well. So it does a lot of jobs. We call these jobs. So like 3 IP address here, we have like 40 over 1,000 jobs. and then each job will identify vulnerabilities, and then from vulnerabilities, we launch exploit to determine the actual risk, exploitable vulnerabilities. So we will show exploitable vulnerabilities as well as those which are not successfully exploited, which is in very similar to your pen test report. My closing remarks as a CISO, we need to stay one step ahead of the adversary, the attacker. Revenue protection is key because ransomware not only cause you operational impact, but if data is exfiltrated and sold, potentially compliance and regulatory penalties will apply as well. We need to control costs, focus on the best actions, remediation required to focus on your core servers, focus on vulnerabilities which are exploitable. And last but not least, do better habits by having a continuous assurance, continuous compliance process. Pen tests should not only be done once or twice a year as part of regulatory requirement, but as part of proactive security defense. With that, I am Hunter. This is me. If you like to be connected, I will be able to connect on LinkedIn. Right. So I pass it back to Pak Bangun. Thank you very much. Terima kasih, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hunter, for the interesting